We want to welcome you all into the final episode of 2022. It's episode 27. I'm Zach here on Trojan Talk with Jeff Christianberry and Cole Perez. How you guys doing this morning?
Good, thanks.
So we want to start off by talking about some TA sports in the playoffs. Girls softball with a comeback win at Gorham. That was on, I believe, Tuesday of this week. Girls came back and won 9-4. It was a great game. Jeff, I know you were at that game. Just tell us a little bit about how that girls team ended up coming back and how great of a game that was.
It's a low-scoring game to start. It's 2-0 Gorham. They get a leadoff home run at some point. TA was struggling on offense, getting some runners on base, but not really converting them into runs. And then just kind of broke it open as it got later. It was they busted. I'm trying to remember the score now because it was 3 days ago now.
9-4.
Yeah, 9-4 was the final score. I'm trying to think how it went. They broke it open with a 2-run triple at one point, like in the fourth inning maybe or fifth inning, and then just kind of held on from there. And then it was 5-4, I believe, going into the seventh, and then they got 4 extra runs there. So just a good hitting display, good defense by both teams. Came into that pitching matchup, and both pitchers struggled a little bit. Not much walking. It was not many walks at all. Mm-hmm. It was just kind of hits back and forth. And in the end, it just came down to 1 or 2 really big hits. The only home run of the game was by Gorham. TA had a couple ones close to the wall. There was a big play where Gorham was about to tie it up. They hit a ball to the wall. 1 run scored, and TA was able to gun down the tying run at the plate, and that really was the game changer because Gorham. Then they got an insurance run and kept going back and forth. So solid win for softball. Now today they play Wyndham, which is going to be a huge. I'm going to go to that one. It's going to be a big uphill battle because Wyndham is unbelievable. So, so whatever happens today, good. It's great to get that first win of the season, of the playoff season, as a 9-8 matchup on the road. Never an easy thing. So, they've ended up having a pretty good season no matter what happens tonight.
We have a boys lacrosse result as well. They won yesterday. We had a doubleheader. We only were able to do the girls game on TATV for a broadcast, but the boys team won 23-4. From what I heard, that was just a blowout. I think it was 12-1 or 14-1 at halftime. It wasn't a very close game. Obviously, those 2-7 matchups aren't really going to be much of a contest, but good job by the boys lacrosse team. I think we're going to have a game on Saturday. I'm not sure what time it is. It should be the 3C, which I think is South Portland. I'm not sure if that game's been decided yet, but
no, most of the games I think were yesterday. But I haven't seen the brackets updated just yet.
That'll be a tough matchup because South Portland was the only loss that TA had this year. And then we also had girls lacrosse yesterday. TA won. Excuse me, they did not win. They lost 15-9. It was a good game by the girls lacrosse team. I did that game with Josh Pulsifer, and TA was down 11-2 at halftime and scored some runs. Not runs.
13-2 at one point.
Yeah, it was a good game. I mean, they came back and they definitely brought it close, but it was the same thing as that Falmouth game where Cape just held the ball at the end and wasted 4 minutes off the clock, and that was just the end of it, and then scored an extra goal. So a good ending to the season by girls lacrosse. They had a good regular season, but they fought hard. I think it's we're starting to see the competition's getting a lot tougher here. So only the teams that are really going to be able to push through are going to be able to get there. And then we also have baseball, who won 20-0 over Biddeford. No surprise. I don't think they're in the round of 16. That was on, I believe that was Tuesday as well.
Tuesday, yeah.
They are going to play. I'm not sure who they're playing the next round, but that game should be this week.
Today.
I believe. It's today.
I'm just looking it up real quick here, actually. You can also talk about boys tennis a little bit. Cole can give us a recap of yesterday.
Give us a recap.
A regional final against Kennebunk, which is always going to be tough, and a really close match yesterday.
Yeah, so it was 3-2, which is really close. At first, it looked very dire for us. It did not look like we had a chance because they have the best player in the state, so we know whoever plays him is probably going to lose that first singles matchup. So we needed to win 3 out of the next 4 matchups, and then first doubles lost the first set, third singles lost the first set, and both of those teams came back to win the second set, and only third singles was able to win the third. If first singles had been able to win in the third set, we probably would have won, but it's unfortunate. If we had all our players, I feel confident that we would have won. I think that's a legit, reason because our second singles who moved up to first singles beat Kennebunk's second singles, so I think we could have had a really good chance. But we'll get them next year because Kennebunk's losing a lot of players, but I know Falmouth's going to be good. Portland's always pretty good. So it was a tough way to end the season, but still a great year, undefeated regular season, and we have a good future too.
Yeah.
Baseball's playing Sanford today,
Sanford. All right.
8 seed. So
Yeah.
again,
And-
should be easy.
Yeah. But yeah, as you said, Cole, it's always unfortunate to lose those players before a big matchup like that. But next year will be a good year. You're going to go 12-0 again?
Hopefully.
Hopefully. All right. We'll talk about some professional sports here. We'll start with the Celtics and the Warriors. Game 3 last night. Go Celtics, right? Game 3 win. That was, I think, an overall great game. Game 3, I think they played well, won by 16 points. They kind of held it really up until the third when Warriors got a 1-point lead, but then they took it right back. I want to get your guys' thoughts. Knowing that the Celtics now have a 2-1 lead, are your series predictions changed?
Not yet, but it's close. I mean, I thought last night was pretty much a must-win for the Celtics because I didn't think that they could win 3 out of 4, and I think Friday's a must-win for the Warriors. They got on 3-1. This is a wrap. I'm not saying they'll lose in 5, but it's just showing that it just, again, doesn't really make a lot of sense. But the Celtics are going to have either halves or games, every other game where they're just going to shoot unbelievably well. Like at some point they were 50% from 3 last night. They were like 8 of 16 or something when they had that big lead near halftime. And it's like, there's not much you can do about that. You're going to have to respond. They did it in game 1. And then they did it again last night. I know the stats didn't end up as great, but, I mean, it was a comfortable win. I mean, besides a little blip in the third quarter, which they always have, they just looked, they looked like whenever it's like they show up some days like, we're not going to turn the ball over tonight. We're going to play well. And then when they do that, they pretty much beat anybody in the floor. And then conversely, look at the Warriors and some of their guys just didn't really show up last night. Draymond, obviously the biggest one. Beyond all the talking, like his play in the series has been pretty abysmal in terms of if you look at the statistics.
Yep.
So Friday night, I mean, look, if you asked me before yesterday, I think I said to a few people, I thought the Celtics were going to win last night and the Warriors are going to win Friday night. And that for the Warriors to win the series, they have to win Friday night. Because I think they'll win Game 5 regardless, but they won't be able to win 3 in a row against the Celtics team just because the Celtics team's too hot for shooting. So when you look at the series, I still think the Warriors, again, if you had to put money on it, I still think the Warriors win in 6 or 7. But I mean, the Celtics are showing what they did all playoffs. They're not, they won't lose 2 games in a row.
Yep.
They haven't all playoff season. But I expect the Warriors, if they're really a championship team still, that they need to come back and win on the road on Friday night. No excuses. None. Last night, I think the press conferences were embarrassing. Cliff Thompson's like, they were swearing at us. Oh, my God, they said the F word. It's like, okay, well, everybody does that, okay? Yeah. And Draymond, of course, that whole situation.
He got a chance the whole first half.
Which is whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, he knew it was going to happen, but, like, they should be more mentally tough than talking about the crowd at all because they just didn't shoot the ball well, and some of their role players continue not to play that great. So, I mean, solid result from the Celtics. They basically led the whole way. I know, besides a little third quarter blip, it was not really in doubt for almost the entire game, which I thought was going to happen. But Friday night, if you're a Warriors fan, that needs to change because you can't go down 3-1.
It's a must-win game every game in the NBA Finals. And I don't think you go into 2 games in Boston thinking, oh, we have to split these 2 games. You take it 1 game at a time. That's not what these teams in these locker rooms are thinking. But this series is every loss is just so devastating, and every win is the best feeling ever. But that was the worst defense I've seen from the Warriors all postseason long by far, not even close. Every offensive rebound was going to the Celtics, every 50-50 ball, every loose ball. It was just unfortunate. We were absolutely terrible, and they were getting to the basket with ease every single time. It was unbelievable. But the reason I have a little bit of confidence in this team is because if it were any other team, it would have been a blowout, I think. Probably 20-plus points. I know it was 16, but we came back and took the lead momentarily, but it was a close game in the third quarter. And that just shows the greatness of Steph and Klay to keep this team in this game. But that's where the positives end. It was a terrible night, and I hope we win Game 4. We just have to have better intensity on defense, and that's really all you can say.
Yeah, I mean, that third quarter kind of like comeback thing was just like Steph Curry hit 3 threes in a row.
But then he had turnovers, right? I mean, then he just,
That's a question I got for you guys. Like, I was watching that game, and Steph ended up 6 for 11, I think, from 3, which is still really good. Like, it's not a bad stat. But some of the threes he throws up sometimes, where he just like runs into it and he just completely misses air balls, like right off the backboard. Do you ever watch Steph Curry and think like, he's not having a good shooting night? Or is it? Does he always seem to pull it out?
I don't think I look at those and say like, oh, why did he shoot that? I mean, you got to take that with the amazing shooting that he has. I mean, he's one of the few players in NBA history probably that's just like just shoot it wherever you want, whenever you want, and you really can't complain. Mm-hmm. For the turnovers are a different story. I mean, he's a little bit careless with the ball at times, and you saw that last night. Which is why when you hear these debates, is he an all-time great? It's like there are some times in these big games that he does shoot well, but he may turn the ball over. And I think this is a pretty interesting series for him in terms of his legacy. And so far it's been up and down for him. If they lose this series in 5 or even 6 games, and he doesn't have that great of a series, it's going to say a lot. No, whatever.
No, does
that really matter?
I think he's played incredible this series.
I don't think
right.
so.
He's been shooting insane last night. I mean, he's the only reason they were in the game. Some of the shots he's making are incredible. Like last night, I expected it to go in every time he shot the ball.
That's Steph Curry, though. He's a great shooter. I mean, definitely top 5 all-time shooter, but overall player, it's going to be...
I think it's the rest of the team that's a problem. Turning the ball over in transition, so then the Celtics get an easy basket on the other end. Draymond's been terrible. Wiggins has been okay. Clay was terrible the last 2 games. And then even like the first quarter last night, Clay was chucking up bricks before he finally got it going. So I think it's the rest of the team, not necessarily Steph.
Yeah. It is, but you would say the great player somehow can overcome that in a series. You know what I mean?
And you have to say, I think everyone expects him to go out there and at least hit 5 or 6 threes in a game. So what is he going to do on top of that to prove it to everybody?
Defensively and everything else.
But I mean, the one thing I will say is, looking at the Celtics, Marcus Smart had 24 points, but he had some terrible turnovers. Just throwing the ball over his head to try to find a pass that went nowhere. The Celtics got lucky last night because they still had over 10-plus turnovers again, which is just not helpful. But looking back at Game 2, I know we haven't talked about this a lot. Cole, I want to get your thoughts about the Draymond deciding to be a football player kind of deal in that game. I know that they won that, and it was a lot of Celtics fans were frustrated. But what do you have? What are your thoughts on Draymond in this series?
He definitely needs to chill out, but I don't think that Game 2 was decided by the refs at all. It was close to a 30-point blowout when we took our starters out. And Draymond, He definitely has to chill, and I think I'm beginning to get a little annoyed with his podcast right after the game. But I still love him. It's what you get with Draymond. You're gonna have to deal with it. He's never gonna change. But you know who really frustrates me though is Grant Williams. Last night Draymond was just standing there. He was barking something at the refs, and then Grant runs into him and then puts his hands up oh, I didn't do anything. Grant just tries to incite Draymond so much. And I think these games in Boston are going to be rough for Draymond, but hopefully he can get it together. I wish he would just say nothing.
Yeah,
just say nothing at all.
Well, I mean, the Celtics before this series are the ones who most people hate because they do all this antics. They do a lot of flopping. They do a lot of complaining to the referees. And Draymond's just kind of like the perfect guy to take that kind of villain role. I mean, when I listen to, I don't want to say the rant, but the talk that Draymond had after Game 2 about the 80s and all that, which kind of hit. I mean, I didn't think he was that out to left field. I mean, I think he does exactly what he thinks he can get away with, and it's not really his fault that the referees are not going to call it. It's a physical game. It's not as physical as it used to be, and that's not the fault of Draymond or Grant Williams or whoever else. It's not even the officials. It's really the management of the NBA is telling the officials to do one thing or the other. So, it's just hard. I mean, if you're a fan of his, it's like, I love the fact that you can talk smack. I love you can be physical, but when you come out and you score 4 points and you're 0 for 7 from 3 for the series, and you're not, obviously you're the captain of the defense, and you're only one guy, but you're the captain. And it used to be back in the late 2000s when the Celtics would have a bad night, Garnett would always take the blame, even if he had, a lot of blocks and steals and everything, but he was the captain of the defense. So when you have an effort last night, which was not good enough from anybody on the floor defensively for the Warriors, you got to take credit for that. And I think his press conference last night was decent. It was fine. Like he said, he played what. But again, when you have a guy like that in your locker room and you embrace his personality and take all the positives with it, both on and off the floor, then you got to accept the negatives too. And for his sake, I hope he plays a little bit better on Friday. Or at least in the series. I mean, if they go out in 5 or 6 and he ends up having 4 points a game, then it's going to be hard for him to say anything. So I thought Game 2 was, I think the Celtics fans were just upset because the team decided to turn the ball over 25 times and they didn't play well, so they wanted to find someone else. I will say, again, I think it's 13-0 now. The Celtics are when Scott Foster refs this year. 13-0.
No, I think that was actually a fake stat.
Was it?
Yeah.
I was wondering because I was like, what are the chances that Chris Paul's 0-15 and the Celtics
because
are 13-0?
I was about to jump on that, and I definitely would have brought it up, but then I learned it was fake. I think they're 5-3. But one more thing about Draymond is whatever you think about him, and most people don't like him, it's honestly impressive to see how much he's mastered the art of towing the line. He'll get that one tech, and then he'll do everything. He'll do just enough to avoid an ejection, and it's honestly impressive how he knows that fine line.
I know. I gotta say one more thing about Draymond. I don't know if you guys watched the start of that game. He had a wide open 3 in the first quarter, and his jump shot is so ugly.
One of the ugliest things I've ever seen.
It is awful.
But remember, in Game 7 in 2016, he was our leading scorer.
Yeah, he had over 30 points
6 years
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah, but that is the ugliest jump shot I've ever seen. That's
it's
worse than
terrible.
like
He looks like he has back problems when
yeah,
he's shooting.
worse than like Joakim Noah. Like
Yeah, there's a few guys that shot some weird
It's
three-pointers.
terrible. But I want one more question about the Celtics and the Warriors. If the Celtics want to win this series, tell me one thing they need to do to keep pushing forward. If the Warriors need to win, what needs to happen for the Warriors?
I will say I'll do one for each. I mean, the Warriors definitely comes down to defensive intensity. I mean, they're going to have nights where they're going to shoot well and score some points. They need to play 4 quarters of defense. You can't take a quarter off. The Celtics took a quarter off, on Game 2, and then look what happened with the Warriors. They scored a ton of points. So if you're the Celtics, I mean, you just got to assume that that one of the role players or two of the role players are going to come step up. Again, it just comes down to turnovers. If they have fewer than 20 turnovers, then they're probably going to win the game. And I don't know. The more I watch these teams, it's like if they both play their best, I don't know who wins.
I would like to see one game like going overtime. Like one.
I want close games. My God,
yeah.
like 16. I mean, I don't want to see these blowouts again. Like last night, it was like, again, the first half was like, all right, here we go. I'll see you on Friday.
It's like on one hand you want to be close, but on the other hand you're like, yeah, I like the Celtics to win this game by like 20.
True,
points.
but you want one good game. I mean, the best game of the postseason for the Celtics was the first game of the first series. Against Brooklyn.
Right, yeah.
They got a buzzer beater. I'm not saying they need a buzzer beater, but I mean, there's been very few games where it's been in the last 2 minutes of the game has been intense for the whole playoffs, let alone just the Celtics. But
for the Celtics, I think you need to keep Rob Williams healthy, and they'll probably be fine because Rob Williams has been great, and simply just keeping him on the floor and playing in big minutes. And for the Warriors, I want to see them experiment. Like the second quarter and the first half hasn't really been their best time. So I want to see them experiment with some new players. Maybe get Kuminga in there, somebody more athletic. And Moses Moody is another rookie who played really well against the Mavs, and he's barely gotten any meaningful minutes in the finals. So I just want to see them experiment with something. And then obviously turnovers for both teams and the defense and the rebounding for the Warriors because they got absolutely bodied last night.
Yeah. I just want to ask you one more question, Cole. I was debating this with my dad yesterday. My dad was asking, he goes, who's that number 0 for the Warriors? I go, that's Gary Payton the second.
Yep.
And he didn't have a very good defensive game. What are your thoughts on Gary Payton? Do you think that he deserves to play more minutes than guys like Moody and Kuminga?
Yeah, I think he's a good, unselfish player, and he's a good defender, but that knee is still bothering him. He had a fairly serious injury against, I think it was Memphis in one of the first games. Yeah, he's good. I don't think he should get a ton of minutes. I am skeptical of him starting, but he's a solid bench player who can contribute on defense. And Iguodala deserves no minutes in this series.
Yeah.
He is terrible.
Why
He's just old.
How old is he?
He's hurt too. I mean,
Is he 40 now?
He's like 38.
Yeah, he's getting there. All right, we have some Bruins talk to have
I'm
here.
really excited about this.
Yeah, so I'll start it off, and then I'll let you guys go into this. So obviously, Bruce Cassidy's fired. 6 seasons with the team, all 6 he won in the playoffs. I say a part of it has to be the president, Cam Neely, and the general manager, Don Sweeney, trying to save their jobs. I mean, they know that they're starting to get to the end there. I think a part of it also has to be that some of the players were a little frustrated with how he was coaching the team. I know Jake DeBrusk had issues with him. That's why you want to trade. But, it sucks to have a guy like that leave. He was a great coach. I will say, though, no matter who steps into this role, I know I have to trust that Cam Neely and Don Sweeney have somebody ready. They didn't fire a coach like that without having somebody, and they said that they are confident in to take that role. But this team has a lot of bad karma right now. All those injuries that, Marchand's not going to be ready for the start of the season. McAvoy's not going to be ready for the start of the season. Grizzlick's not. Bergeron might not be ready. Is Bergeron going to come back? And then the coaching and then all the issues. Pasternak is dealing with some re-signing things. He might not re-sign with us. So there's a lot of things going on with the Bruins right now. But I think people are overreacting about this Cassidy thing. I don't think Cassidy has been the greatest coach of all time. I don't think he's been somebody that the Bruins needed to have to win games, but it sucks to have him there, and it's hard to know that your president and your general manager are like trying to save their jobs to keep this one going. But I gotta be positive. I hope that they find somebody good. I know Jay Leach is somebody. I swear to God, if they hire David Quinn, he's had the worst NHL coaching career ever. But we're just waiting in the offseason for the playoffs to be over so we can get into the offseason.
So on the coach part of it, from what I've heard, and I'm only hearing secondhand through other radio media sources, it sounds like what they may want, and again, this is like a lot like the NBA. They want more of a player's coach.
Yep.
Cassidy was much like who's the guy before the guy I had before?
Claude Julien.
Claude Julien, kind of an old school, my way or the highway. If you don't do this right, you're not getting ice time.
Yep.
And that that falls on deaf ears after a while. So I mean. Again, for me, is it totally surprising to get fired? No. I mean, definitely has a lot of Neely and Sweeney on the hands. I mean, because again, those two guys have not really done anything, that is worthy of praise in terms of building a team. Like the teams that won the Stanley Cup and have gone to the Stanley Cups were not really under their tutelage too much or under their building. So for me, this coach is more secondary, and I think we talked a little bit about it. Like the Bruins in the next 3 or 5 years, I think, are in big trouble. Okay, so you have two real paths. You have
I think it's the opposite.
Let me hear it.
Okay.
So you either have the stay the course, which is hope Bergeron comes back, somehow fit him under the cap, and basically run it back from this year because you have no cap room if Bergeron comes back to try to get any better. So you're just hoping that Swayman gets better, that all your top 5 guys, or most of them are just a year older, stay as great as they are, and then all of these secondary players all become better to compete with the Lightning and Colorado and Edmonton and everybody else. Okay, that's if Bergeron comes back. Another one is Bergeron doesn't come back. Okay, then you have Pasternak out there who's probably going to want like an 8-year, $88 million contract, after next year. Is the Bruins going to be able to pay him that and then keep everybody else? Don't know. Do you just blow it up? Okay, do you trade? You take Pasternak, you trade him for a king's ransom, get a couple first-round picks. I mean, again, you can't ignore the fact of who the ownership is. The ownership doesn't want to rebuild, but they also don't usually care as much to spend so much money. They want the Jacobs family wants a playoff series at home because they make a ton of money from it.
Yep.
Okay, it's been like that for decades. Yes, they've had a lot of great playoff runs. They've never been the team that's been spending the most or really extending themselves. So their Stanley Cup runs have really come on the backs of solid recruiting and also good coaching as well. So are they going to be the ones who are going to want a rebuild? Or are they going to want to run it back as well? And is that best for the franchise to run this team back? And then a year goes by, Pasternak decides to leave because he didn't want to resign. Bergeron retires, and then you're stuck with a 37-year-old Marchand and Charlie McAvoy, and not much else. So I don't know. I'd like to hear how a non-rebuild, because you're saying you don't want to rebuild. How is this team going to step up and become a Stanley Cup champion? Not just like, well, I want to get to second round or maybe the third round. I mean, 2018 is 4 years ago now. Okay, that's in the long pass of them almost beating the Blues. Everybody's 3 or 4 years older.
We got robbed of that one though.
What does it matter? We're talking 4 years ago. It's like saying, oh, Tom Brady. If he was still with the Patriots, then. So how is this team going to take that next step? Because you're watching the Rangers and the Lightning and all these teams that are in the Stanley Cup Finals. Yep. It's not just about having Connor McDavid. It's about having 2 or 3 really good lines. And the Bruins, again, when you compare it to those teams who went to the Stanley Cup, those guys on the 3rd and 4th lines were great players, and they just don't have that right now. So how are they going to stay the course, not sign anybody, not really draft anybody, and win a Stanley Cup in the next 2 to 3 years?
All right, so there's a big difference between a rebuild and what they call retooling, which is just moving players in and out to keep what they have. It has to be around a franchise of a player, and that is Pasternak. So if they don't have that, they have to rebuild. So that really depends on whether or not he wants to sign an extension. Their defense is great. They have Lindholm, McAvoy. They got signed for a while. Carlo as well. They have a good defense. They've got a good goalie set up here with Ullmark and Swayman. I don't think Swayman's one of those guys who's going to want like a $8 million contract. He's one of those guys that just wants to play hockey, will take a decent sized contract. I think that if we lose Bergeron, we obviously have to find a number 1 center. Like that has to happen. But we have some guys in the WHL and the AHL, Fabian Lysell. We've got some players down there. I don't think that the Bruins are going to need to rebuild just yet because they have so many younger players like Pasternak. Marchand still got years in him. Like, you have to remember, Marchand's only like 31, 32, and he's still playing at a high level. But it does come down to Bergeron. It comes down to whether or not he wants to come back. If he retires,
Marchand's 34, by the way.
Is he 34? You just 34. Looked that up? All right. Well, he's playing like he's 31. How about that? But I don't know. It's hard because as a fan, I just wanted them to keep this going. Like a couple years ago, I never would have thought about Bergeron's going to be gone, and we've got all these injuries going into the season.
Well, that's the case. I mean, that's one of those things. Do you want to be a team that contends every year? Contends, but never really, they're going to have to get really lucky to go to a Stanley Cup champion final even, or do you want to rebuild and maybe in 3 years win a Stanley Cup? It's not just a Bruins problem. All over sports you have teams like that are just kind of like, and the Celtics have been there for the last 3 or 4 years. Like, okay, they're good, but they're really, Now they were able to, they were kind of relied on these two big guys to become superstar players. But it's I don't know. It's if you're putting your money on the younger guys that are in the minor leagues to come better, that's good. But I mean, what are the chances a rookie's going to come in and make a huge difference and score? I mean, just look at someone like Taylor Hall. I mean, his contract now is an albatross. Like, you would love to get rid of him tomorrow. If someone would take him, because that was another scenario I've heard. If you want to retool, keep Pastrnak, you can trade Marchand and Taylor Hall, find someone with $12 million, and you can get back 3 or 4 decent players.
Yep.
Would that be better than the combination? I know Marchand's a great player, but Marchand plus Hall versus 4 players who can get you maybe more goals, and then you knock one of those kind of third and fourth line guys down. Centers their biggest problem right now. They need some centers. I mean, they're far, and I don't think Krejci's coming back. Like, I don't see that happening.
I mean, plus it wouldn't matter because he'd have to clear waivers, and there'd be some team out there that's like, you know what, let's just screw with the Bruins and just pick him up. But you talked about the Rangers. I mean, they had a successful retooling. Like, they basically got rid of like their bottom 3 lines, but they kept Chris Kreider, they kept Mika Zibanejad, and they stuck with that. And look at them now. I mean, they're pushing the Lightning into what might be a Cup final. So, we have to wait. Nothing will happen until the playoffs are over. I'm hoping that they get a coach signed quickly. I'm hoping they figure out Bergeron quickly, and I'm hoping they sign Pastrnak to at least a 3-year extension.
But would he do that? Would Pastrnak do that, or would he waiting for that monster once-in-a-lifetime deal in a year?
Well, I don't know, because there's talks that he is not happy with getting rid of Cassidy, and I know some of those articles that are posted are for clicks. People want to just say, oh, he's not happy, but just to get them to click on that article. But
and Krug too, I heard that too on the radio.
Yeah, Krug and Krejci.
He's not happy with Neely. He's not or Sweeney. He's not happy that these guys have just been able to walk between Krejci and Krug. So.
Who knows? It's all speculation.
They got to figure out Bergeron. I mean, I heard that he might not know until November, December, like whether he's going to come back.
Which is not helpful to us.
You can't do it. No, you can't have that, especially the guy that kind of cap it. You gotta.
Yeah, there's lots of question marks. Hopefully, we get those question marks figured out. I think we've had so much bad karma in the last month. It's going to turn into good karma. So we're gonna. Everyone's going to come back.
Optimist over here.
Everyone's going to come back, and then all the injuries are just going to happen to be all ready for the beginning of the season. We're just going to have the best year ever.
Well, beginning of the season doesn't matter anyway.
Yep.
Just get in the playoffs.
A couple more topics here. We'll talk about the Red Sox real quick. I know that we were crapping on their beginning of the season when they were like 7-20 or some crazy number.
They were like 12-20. They were terrible.
They were terrible. And now they are a wild card team, or they were at least a few days ago. I don't follow the Red Sox a lot. I watch a game here and there, but I don't know if you guys have done any research. But what's up with this team? What's up with the AL East? I know that it's basically one of the best divisions in baseball right now. And I mean, do you think the Red Sox are going to be able to hold this wild card spot?
Yeah, I do. I mean, they've won 7 in a row because they're beating up on bad teams. The Angels have lost. They're playing the Angels right now, and the Angels have lost 14 in a row.
Wow.
The Angels 14. They were 27 and 17, and now they're 27 and 31, and that's who the Red Sox are playing right now.
Yep.
I don't know. It's tough to explain. It's just like the Sox are down. Again, they were like 12 and 20, something like that, and now they're 30 and 27. They've gone on this ridiculous run. Do I think they're a World Series team? No, but I also didn't think the 2013 team was a World Series team, or the 2018 even. They just find a way every couple years to find lightning in a bottle. I don't know if it's Alex Cora. I don't know what it is. I mean, do I think they're going to go in the division? No, they're still got 3 teams ahead of them in the AL East. So I don't think they're. And again, I don't think they're a World Series champion team. But I mean, I think they're going to stick in the wild card. They have enough offense, especially if their pitching is decent. And I'm not banking on Chris Sale doing anything this year. But if he does, it's all a bonus. So. I mean, a great turnaround, but I mean, it's baseball season. They're still only 2.5 months into the season, not even close to halfway done. So, I mean, good on them. They're beating up on some of the bad teams. What will happen when they play, the Rays and the Yankees, we'll have to see. Yankees are playing very well. The whole AL East is playing very well. But it's just crazy to me that the Angels, who are in first place in that division now, 14 losses in a row. And every year they disappoint, and that's a different conversation about Mike Trout and is he regretting it all getting that massive deal, $50 million a year, whatever he made, comfortable. But that team is just never contending, and it's going to be interesting if he ends up being, setting all kinds of records, but he plays for a team who never really gets a chance for it. But the Sox just keep trucking, keep hitting. I saw
this funny thing that all of the Angels players, and this might have been a couple days ago, where their walk-up song for every player is going to be Nickelback. I don't know why. They're trying to break the bad streak, just trying to change something up.
It didn't work again.
Yeah, they lost 1-0, the Angels, the Red Sox last night. Yeah. I'm not a baseball expert, so I like to think of things in basketball or football terms. This is like having Giannis and KD on the same team and being under 500 for
Yep.
the Angels. But the Red Sox,
They see the Lakers this year.
yeah, they play in the best division in baseball, and I'm looking here at the standings. The only other teams in the American League that are over 500 are in first place in their division. Every other team is 500 or below, and but it's going to be tough with those three juggernauts ahead of them, the Yankees, the Blue Jays, and the Rays, who all have just great lineups. But it's been the starting pitching for the Red Sox and the complete games that they've had, guys going the distance all 9 innings, and the hitting has been great too. They've won in different kind of ways. They've scored in the double digits, and then they only win 1-0 last night. But I love Alex Cora, and I think he deserves the most amount of credit for their success. And like you said, the 2013 team, even the 2018 team, they weren't considered a World Series team. Then they go on these big runs. But again, it's only June, and baseball is really about playing your best in October more than pretty much any other sport. So we'll see what happens. But this team is definitely very exciting to watch.
In the last 8 games, talking about the pitching, they've only allowed more than 2 runs once, and they won that game. When they won 6-5, but they've won 2 games in this series, 1-0 against the Angels. They've won more tonight. So. Can they keep it up? Who knows? But certainly when stuff like this happens, the Red Sox ownership just loves it because that means they can prove their model and not play some, who knows? They have a lot. That team, again, has a lot of question marks going forward about Bogarts and Devers to see in terms of what kind of deal they're going to get. And the more they win like this, the more they can be like, we don't really need both of them, right? Because we just pinned a lot on Trevor Story. So I don't know if you're a Red Sox fan, it's one of those things like, do you want them to do what do you want them to do this year? You want them to win the World Series. If they win the World Series, who cares? But if they do this thing where they contend and make the playoffs, maybe like last year, where a team wasn't that talented, made a deep run, then it kind of confirms what the Red Sox are doing, may not be good for the long term. If you just lose another, they lost Betts, and now they may lose Bogarts, who I can't believe set the record for the most games at shortstop in Red Sox history recently.
I know. If I had to pick between the two of them, I would pick Devers. His numbers this year are absolutely insane. He's such a good hitter. I think that's no like knock on Bogart's game because he's a great player too, but I just think Devers he's that franchise player that they need to keep for a while, and hopefully he resigns. I don't know, are there any issues with him and the management? Does he not want to resign?
No, it's really about Bogarts and if they want to sign him again. It's really both those guys. It's like, do they want will the Red Sox pay the money? It's not like a Betts thing where they want to go somewhere else. So from what I've heard, it's more just about will they match the money. Whereas Betts just seemed like I want to go to LA, which I don't blame him for that money.
All right, last topic before we get to pick the winners. So the Avalanche sweep the Oilers. Draisaitl and McDavid fail again. And I know we've seen this a couple of times. So, we've seen Austin Matthews, Mitchell Marner, this fantastic Leafs team who hasn't seemed to get out of the first round in the last, 15 years. And the same thing with Draisaitl and McDavid. They've had their playoff troubles. So if you were a general manager, a coach of a team, and you have all these great guys where they just cannot win over and over and over and over again, would you consider trading somebody like a Draisaitl or like a Mitchell Marner who's so good to get back assets to try to change something up, or you just kind of do keep trying over and over again to see if you can get there?
Well, first of all, I have no idea who 2 of those guys are. So
Who?
Draisaitl and what was the last guy you mentioned?
Mitchell Marner.
Yeah, never heard of him.
Right. So
McDavid, yeah, but I
okay. Let's put it in basketball terms.
It's different though. I was about to say because it's a different sport. If you're in basketball, then what you do is you do what the Celtics did, and you just have to find the role players. You get the right mixture of a Marcus Smart, of a Grant Williams, these guys, of Derek White, that kind of thing. It's a lot harder in hockey because the Bruins are in the same spot. You have 4 or 5 guys at the top of their roster where you're like, anybody would take those guys in a heartbeat. You can win a Stanley Cup with them. It's that secondary, but the problem is with hockey, it's when it comes down to the playoffs, you need 3 really, really good lines.
Yep.
And if you can't score on all 3 of those lines, then you're in trouble because what we saw with McDavid obviously had a ridiculous playoffs, scoring, 12 goals or something like that, 13 goals.
He had 33 points. And
it's just insane.
12 games,
but it's like you need more than that, and especially in the way that the playoffs went this year, and these games are finishing 8-6 and 7-4, you need guys who can score on all 3 of your, again, 4 lines, but they're only playing mostly 3 lines in some of your defensemen as well. So, look, if I'm a hockey team and I'm like the Oilers, you just got to try to work it out. I don't know what the salary cap situation is. You got to try to find a way to, especially because both those guys are young, right? Draisaitl.
I think he's a little bit older, but I mean,
he's not 35 or 40.
No,
so
these guys are under 30.
You can't get rid of one of those elite guys. I mean, they just went to the Western Conference Finals, and the Avalanche are kind of a juggernaut. So I wouldn't say this compares to the Leafs this year, where again they just cannot get out of the first round.
I don't know what it is.
They do.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. How many more years are they just going to keep these guys with huge contracts before they say, well, you can't give it to Austin Matthews. Maybe like a William Nylander or Mitchell Marner. These guys are great players. You just go, well, we're throwing them somewhere else. We're taking all these younger guys and we're trying again.
It's risky though. I mean, you do like the Bruins did trade for Taylor Hall, and it doesn't always work out. It worked out for a month or two, but
he's pretty good. He's pretty good. He didn't have a good playoff series. Again, they moved Pastrnak back up to that first line, so Hall is made better by when he's next to a guy like Pastrnak, or even like when Krejci was here, he's playing really well, but he didn't look as great.
What do you so since this is our final episode, what's your prediction for the Stanley? First of all, the Eastern Conference Finals and the Stanley Cup.
All right, so Rangers win this series in 7, and it's a shocker. Like
what's 2-2 right now?
2-2.
Yeah,
but Rangers won the first 2, just lost 2 in Tampa. I think the Rangers. Yeah, everyone I think wants the Rangers to win because nobody wants Colorado to win. Like I like Colorado, but I want the Rangers to win. That'd be cool. But then the Colorado sweeps the Stanley Cup final, just because I feel like they're more prepared, even without like Nazem Kadri, and they're missing a defenseman right now. But I think the Avalanche finally win it, and then they did the same thing Florida did. They got a bunch of guys at the trade deadline. Their cap is like
razor thin.
It's like probably like $5. Like they don't have any space right now. All right, we'll finish up this episode with some pick the winners. So
I think I won last night, didn't I?
I think you did. Well, we'll talk about that. So we decided to just to make it even because I won the regular season with
barely. By the way, I came in a nice comeback.
I was 26-15. Jeff, you were 24-18. Cole was 18-22. But that was you did
not
pick
bad.
it up. You picked it up.
Yeah,
was
for
like
week 2, you were like 1-9. So
yep.
yeah,
all right.
not bad.
But we decided we were going to pick the score of the Game 3 of the Warriors Celtics, and that would just decide the winner. And yes, Jeff, you won. Your score pick was 111 to 102. You were the closest. So you win. Pick the winners. I'm not sure what your prize will be. We'll figure that out. But
We'll figure something out.
Yeah, good win for you. But that is going to do it for the final episode of 2022. It's obviously sad, but we're glad to have done a lot of episodes this year. We're thankful for all the people who listen and watch this, and we're definitely going to have this back next year. My hope is that we can get to, I said this out last night on the live stream, we get to 50 episodes before I graduate. That's my goal.
We can do that.
Yeah, I think we can do that. All right, well, do you guys have any thoughts?
Nope.
Go Celtics.
Yeah, go Celtics.
Warriors in 6.
6.
So is there anything, as we wrap up though, is there anything that, any big predictions in the sports world between now and let's say we do our first episode in the first week of September, like besides at the NBA Finals? So that's always, is there anything else that's going to happen over the summer in football, or I mean, there's no sports are going to be decided besides hockey and basketball.
Yeah, that's the thing. Summer's kind of boring. It's just
Here's what I'll give a prediction kind of outside the box. I think Live Golf is going to take off.
Yeah.
Did you hear about this with Bryson DeChambeau and then somebody else?
Yes, I am a pretty.
I'm not against
What is
Live
that?
Golf.
What is?
Okay, so it very basically, Live Golf is going to challenge the PGA Tour. So
Yep.
Live Golf, and let's take out the fact that it's funded by the Saudis, which whatever is a whole issue. Basically, it's guaranteed money for the PGA players. So right now, the PGA Tour, you get no guaranteed money. You missed the cut in the
just
tournament.
prize money if you win.
Oh,
So
I
Live
see.
Golf is
Okay.
basically saying we're gonna the last place person in Live Golf is gonna make $100,000 in the tournament.
Wow.
There's only 48 players in each tournament for Live Golf, whereas in the PGA sometimes it would be up to 100. And there's only 54 holes. There's only 3 days of golf.
And no cuts.
No cuts either. So everyone, and there's a team component as well, where each week you're on a certain team.
And depending on how you do.
You get some points there towards the end of the year.
There's
some things that are kind of throwing stuff against the wall. I don't know if the team component's going to all work. I understand, but I mean, the fact that I know a lot of people in the golf world, and I've followed this quite closely, and some of my friends, and the more that they kind of chat about Live and how stupid it is, the more I think that they're a little bit worried because these are not, the dire golf fan is going to watch every week. Okay, the casual golf fan, I consider myself a casual golf fan.
Yep.
If I'm tuning in on a Saturday afternoon with nothing else to do, and it's not a majors throw those out because we're going to watch those anyway.
Yeah.
If I'm looking at the leaderboard and I see Phil Mickelson, Sergio Garcia, Bryson DeChambeau, DJ John, I'm much more likely to watch it if I see Kevin Kisner, Charles Schwartzel, like these other guys where like, I don't really know that guy. Like, I'm not going to sit there and watch for 2 or 3 hours and take a nap.
Yeah.
These are pretty big names, and the PGA Tour is basically, if they start banning these guys, and the only thing that Live right now doesn't have is they don't have a great TV deal. They're doing a lot of streaming. If they get a TV deal, they could definitely challenge a PGA. And look, I'm not saying the PGA Tour is ever going to go away, but this is not the NFL versus USFL or XFL. I mean, this is a legit operation. They have a ton of money behind it. They're doing only 8 tournaments this year, so every tournament's going to be big. They're trying to make an event. I think they're trying to do more like an F1 thing. They're trying to go all around the world because they're in London. There's one in Thailand. There'll be one in Saudi Arabia and many in the U.S. So I'm interested to see. I mean, maybe the PGA Tour will take a look at it and make some changes for the positive. I mean, I like the PGA Tour, but anybody who's crapping on these players for taking the money from the Saudis, like, give me a break. I mean, Justin Johnson's getting $120 million guaranteed. That's generational wealth. I mean, the best player in golf last year is John Rahm, made $7 million. Now, not endorsements, but like in prize money. And in the last place player will make like $2 or $3 million in live golf this year. So, not saying that that's sustainable, but you can't ignore it. And the fact that all the PGA people are really nervous about it makes you know that they're a little bit nervous that some of their audience will go away with more of these stars start going.
And I don't think the PGA Tour runs these majors, so
They
I
don't.
think
No.
Phil and DJ and all these guys are going to be able to play in the majors too. But if you're not following golf, this is the time. There's actually drama in golf now, and it's almost like free agent golf, but it's awesome. And I can't wait to see how this all shapes out, and if Phil, ever plays like in the PGA Tour again. Sounds like he's still going to play the majors, but
the Masters though. So last thing here, because I know we're going to wrap up. The Masters is totally invitational tournament. It has nothing to do with PGA. They can invite anybody they want. There are 5 previous Masters champions now in Live Golf. If Masters, who have kind of indicated they're going to not let anybody play in their tournament as Live Golf, if they ban 5 former champions, that's going to make waves and may actually sway some people to be like, what is golf? Why is golf being so possessive? Because it really has nothing to do with the Saudis, to be honest.
This helps all the golfers because both the PGA and Live are both going to be like, well, we're going to try to make our programs or whatever, our organization better for you. So all these golfers out here are probably just sitting there smiling.
That's my prediction. Live Golf will be not nothing.
I think something happens to LeBron James in summer. That's my prediction.
Go to Golden State, I heard.
All right.
No.
Well, that's going to do it for episode 27, the last of 2022. We will see you all next year. Thank you all for watching, and have a great summer.
Go Trojans.
Yep.